All right, we're continuing our reading of C.S. Lewis and The Great Divorce. It's a story about a group that goes from hell on a bus up to heaven. And let's see where we're at right now in chapter 5. For a moment, there was silence under the cedar trees, and then pad, pad, pad. It was broken. Two velvet footed lions came bouncing into the open space, their eyes fixed upon each other, and started playing some solemn romp. Their manes looked as if they had been just dipped in a river whose noise I couldn't hear close at hand, though the trees hid it. Not greatly liking my company, I moved away to find the river, and after passing some thick, flowery bushes, I succeeded. The bushes came almost down to the brink. It was as smooth as the Tam, but flowed swiftly like a mountain stream, pale green where trees overhung it, but so clear that I could count the pebbles at the bottom. Close beside me, I saw another of the bright people in conversation with a ghost. It was the fat ghost with the cultured voice who had addressed me in the bus, and it seemed to be wearing gaiters. "My dear boy, I'm delighted to see you," it was saying to the spirit, who was naked and almost blindingly white. "I was talking to your poor father the other day and wondering where you were." "You didn't bring him?" said the other. "Well, no, he lives a long way from the bus, and to be quite frank, he's been getting a little eccentric lately. A little difficult losing his grip. He never has prepared to make any great efforts, you know. If you remember, he used to go to sleep with you, and I got talking seriously. Dick, I shall never forget some of our talks. I expect you've changed your views a bit since then. You became rather narrow-minded at the end of your life, but no doubt you broadened out again." "How do you mean?" "Well, it's obvious by now, isn't it, that you were quite right. Why, my dear boy, you were coming to believe in a literal heaven and hell." "But wasn't I right?"
"Oh, in the spiritual sense, to be sure, I still believe in them in that way. I am still, my dear boy, looking for the kingdom, but nothing superstitious or mythological."
"Excuse me, where do you imagine you've been?"
"Oh, I see. You mean that gray town with the continual hope of morning? We must all live by hope, must we not? With its field of indefinite progress is in a sense heaven. If only we have eyes to see it. That is a beautiful idea."
"I don't mean that at all. Is it possible you don't know where you've been?"
"Now that you mention it, I don't think we ever do give it a name. What do you call it?"
"We call it hell."
"There is no need to be profane, my dear boy. I may not be very orthodox in your sense of the word, but I do feel that these matters ought to be discussed simply and seriously and reverentially."
"Discuss hell reverentially? I meant what I said. You had been in hell, though if you don't go back, you may call it purgatory."
"Go on, dear boy, go on. That is so like you. No doubt you'll tell me why, on your view, I was sent there. I'm not angry."
"But don't you know you went there because you're an apostate?"
"Are you serious, Dick?"
"Perfectly."
"This is worse than I expected. Do you really think people are penalized for their honest opinion? Even assuming for the sake of argument that these opinions were mistaken."
"Do you really think there's no sins of intellect?"
"There are indeed, Dick. There is a hidebound prejudice, intellectual dishonesty, and timidity and stagnation. But honest opinions fearlessly followed, they are not sins."
"I know we used to talk that way. I did it too, until the end of my life, when I became what you call narrow. It all turns out what are honest opinions."
"Mine certainly were. They were not only honest, but heroic. I asserted them fearlessly. When the doctrine of the resurrection ceased to command itself to the critical faculties which God had given me, I openly rejected it. I preached my famous sermon. I defied the whole chapter. I took every risk."
"What risk? What was at all likely to come of it, except what actually came? Popularity, sales for your books, invitations, and finally a bisophic."
"Dick, that is unworthy of you. What are you suggesting?"
Friend, I'm not suggesting at all. You see, I know now. Let us be frank. Our opinions were not honestly come by. We simply found ourselves in contact with a certain current of ideas and plunged into it because it seemed modern and successful. At college, we just started automatically writing the kind of essays that got good marks and saying the kind of things that won applause. When in our whole lives did we honestly face in solitude that one question in which all turned whether after all the supernatural might not in fact occur? When did we put up one moment's real resistance to the loss of our faith?
But that is meant to be a sketch of the genesis of liberal theology in general. I reply that it is a mere libel. Do you suggest that men like
I have nothing to do with any generality, nor with any man but me and you. Oh, as you love your own soul, remember, you know that you and I were playing with loaded dice. We didn't want the other to be true. We were afraid of crude salvationism, afraid of a breach with the spirit of the age, afraid of ridicule, afraid above all of real spiritual fears and hopes.
I'm far from denying that young men may make mistakes. They may well be influenced by current fashions of thought. But it's not a question of how the opinions are formed. The point is that we're all my honest opinions, sincerely expressed.
Of course, having allowed oneself to drift unresistingly, unprayingly, accepting every half-conscious solicitation from our desires, we reached a point where no one longer believed the faith. Just in the same way, a jealous man, drifting and unresisting, reaches a point at which he believes lies about his best friend. A drunkard reaches a point at which, for the moment, he actually believes that another glass will do him no harm. The beliefs are sincere in the sense that they do not occur as psychological events in the man's mind, if that's what you mean by sincerity. They are sincere, and so were ours, but errors which are sincere in that sense are not innocent.
You'll be justifying the Inquisition in a moment.
Why? Because the Middle Ages erred in one direction, does it follow that there is no error in the opposite direction?
Well, that is extremely interesting,
said the Episcopalian ghost.
It's a point of view, certainly. It's a point of view. In the meantime,
there is no meantime, replied the other. All that is over. We are not playing now. I have been talking of the past, your past and mine, only in order that you may turn from it forever. One wrench and the tooth will be out, and you can begin as if nothing had ever gone wrong, white as snow. It's all true, He is in me for you with that power, and I have come a long journey to meet you. You have seen hell. You are in sight of heaven. Will you even now repent and believe?
I'm not sure that I've got the exact point you're trying to make, said the ghost.
I'm not trying to make any point, said the spirit. I'm telling you to repent and believe.
But, my dear boy, I believe already. We may not be perfectly agreed, but you have completely misjudged me if you do not realize that my religion is a very real and very precious thing to me.
Very well, said the other, as if changing his plan. Will you believe in me?
In what sense?
Will you come with me to the mountains? It will hurt at first, until your feet are hardened. Reality is harsh to the feet of shadows. But will you come?
Well, that is a plan. I am perfectly ready to consider it. Of course, I should require some assurances. I should want a guarantee that you are taking me to a place where I shall find a wider sphere of usefulness and a scope for the talents that God has given me. An atmosphere of free inquiry, in short, all that one means by civilization and the spiritual life.
No, said the other. And that's where we're going to leave off for today.